Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a bright and cheery card featuring some products from the Concord and Ninth Brighter Days Ahead release. I absolutely love this kind of wonky layering style rainbow. It is so easy to use and these cards come together so quickly. Now there's also a coordinating die set that's available and I will be including that in today's card as well, but I'm going to start out by stamping my rainbows onto this pale rose cardstock from Bazzill. And I'm going to cut these down using one of the essential shape dies from the Essentials by Ellen collection. This is going to give me a nice little rectangle to kind of mount on the front of my card. And I was inspired by a very simple card I saw on Instagram featuring a rainbow that was kind of going off the edge of the page on a pink background. And so I'm kind of running with that idea here. And I'm going to be stamping my rainbow onto this pink cardstock. Now, these rectangle dies are really cool because they not only cut your rectangle, but they also cut that little frame. So I'm going to save that for later. Now I'm creating 2 cards today, but I'm going to only show you kind of the process of creating 1 card. But these are very easy to mass produce, especially when you're using a tool like the Misty to do your stamping. Now, this rainbow is super forgiving, so you could absolutely do this with the acrylic block if you want to do that instead. And this pink cardstock is such a pale pink cardstock that my colors are really going to shine through. So I wouldn't want to do this on a darker pink cardstock, but because this is so light, it works out really well. So I'm starting with my largest arch of the rainbow and I'm stamping that in the Stamp Market's bubblegum ink. Then I am going to mount my second arch here and I'm just kind of nestling them into each other. I'm not really taking a lot of care to make sure they line up exactly so far apart or anything like that. Like I mentioned before, this rainbow is super forgiving, so you just kind of nestle it up there, mount it on your Misty and go for it. Now the second color I used was Tiara from Catherine Pooler. And this third color I'm using is a really bright green and it's called Melon Ice. This is such a cool color. And the final color I'm going to use on my rainbow for the smallest arch is called Aquatini and it's also from Catherine Pooler. Now I don't know if you've seen on Concord and Ninth's Instagram, but they have a beautiful color collection coming out soon and I so wish I could have made these cards using their brand new inks and cardstocks, but they had to delay the release of those colors because of all of the pandemic things that are going on. The supply chain is a little interrupted, and so I plan to remake these rainbows when I can use those Concord and Ninth inks because they are absolutely gorgeous. So the next step, I just took some Meant to Be ink from Catherine Pooler and I stamped a couple of clouds on the right side of the rainbow. And then I'm going to use that same Meant to Be ink and this background stamp from Concord and Ninth. It's got these really thin diagonal pinstripe type lines. And I'm going to stamp my card base using that background stamp. So what I do is I ink up the stamp. I leave the stamp on the backer and I face up on my desk, ink it up, place my card base on top of it, and then I rub all over it using a piece of scrap paper to protect my fingers from the ink because I don't like ink on my fingers. I mean, it's just a thing for me, okay? Now for my next portion, I wanted to stamp some of the crisscross stamps that are included in the stamp set, kind of coming out from behind this rectangle on my card base. But I kind of needed to know where that rectangle was going to land. So I just traced a few edges of it on my card base with a pencil. And then I'm going to ink up this little crisscross stamp using some Gina Obsidian Amalgam ink. And I'm going to stamp it in 3 different places around the rectangle. And it's kind of going to just add a pop of black and a little bit of texture to this card base and a little kind of interest. You don't absolutely have to do this step, but I thought it kind of helped to finish off and ground that rectangle on the finished project. So before I erase the pencil lines on my card base, I wanted to make sure that that ink was nice and dry. So I'm going to work on some other portions. I'm going to white heat emboss 2 different sentiments onto this black cardstock. So I started by prepping the surface of my cardstock with my powder tool. Then I'm inking up my sentiment stamps in some Versamark ink and stamping those onto both ends of this cardstock because I'm doing a twofer here. And then I'm going to coat those stamped sentiments with embossing powder. Now I'm going to just tap off the excess, and I'm going to use my heat tool to melt that embossing powder. So I'm just moving over it quickly, making sure that it melts to a smooth, glossy finish. And then I'm going to take these over to my trimmer, and I am going to trim them down into strips. And I love this trimmer because I can see where I'm cutting, so I can make sure that I have equal borders on both sides of these embossed sentiments. Now, before I start putting these together, I'm going to do a little die cutting, and I am using some of the Concord and 9th glitter cardstock. This is the white glitter. It's from the Neutrals pack, and I absolutely love this because this is great for using with COPIC markers. You can actually just COPIC marker right over the top of it and change the color if you want. And I'm using the coordinating die set from this Brighter Days stamp set. It has this little sun ray kind of die cut, a few little raindrops, a couple of clouds. There's some really awesome sentiments and some hearts as well. So I'm going to die cut some of those images from this glitter cardstock. And today for my foam, I am going to be using this little stack of scraps that's been over on the side of my desk. I've decided I needed to use it up, so I did that today. So I have a couple of strips here that are double layered foam adhesive, and I'll be using those on my cards today. So to adhere this little sun ray die cut to the side of my rectangle, I'm just using a little liquid glue on those two end rays and just adhering that onto the back of this rectangle. I'm going to use a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of these sentiment strips to adhere them to the rectangle as well. And I'm just kind of going right over that area where I stamped the clouds. So this sentiment kind of nestles into those clouds. And I am using the grid on my mat to make sure that I'm getting everything on there straight. I'm going to add a couple little hearts and a few little raindrops. And then I'm going to flip these over. And I'm going to add a bunch of double layer foam adhesive on the back because number one, I like a lot of dimension. And number two, most of the scrap foam that was on my desk today was double layer. So it just kind of worked out that way. Now, before I adhere this onto my card base, I went ahead and erased those pencil lines to kind of clean it up. Then I'm going to lay this in that lower left-hand corner, kind of make sure that it's on there straight and that my margins are good, and then I'm going to press it down onto the card base. Now, what is a rainbow without a little shimmer? So if you know me at all, you know I'm going to take every opportunity to add a little sparkle to my cards. And so I'm just using a little bit of the Tonic Aqua Shimmer pin over those rainbow bows. And then I'm going to use this BG11 Copic marker to add a little bit of shading towards the top of my raindrops here. And I'm going to finish all of these small glitter pieces, the raindrops and the hearts, off with a little bit of glossy accents. And that layer of glossy accents is going to give them a little bit of dimension and a whole lot of shine. And I absolutely love to do that over a little glitter embellishment there. So that finishes off my two rainbow cards today. One says "Over the Rainbow for You" and the other says "Brighter Days Are Ahead." I absolutely could not agree more. There are brighter days coming. If you are struggling during this time, I hope this video brought you a little smile to your face, and I hope it's just a small reminder that brighter days are coming, and hang in there. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my card making and paper crafting video tutorials. Once again, thanks for stopping by and watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. If you want to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.